whole period started when I was still working on the Queen Mary. And every time the ship docked, which was roughly every 15 days, we spent every night on 52nd Street, hearing the different bands. And it was such a wonderful experience. It was so unlike anything we'd known in the UK. And then it was on one of those trips that I met Lenny Tristano. And we were all in awe of Lenny because he was the guy in those days. He was further out, more developed than any of the others. And to our ears, even people like Bird, So when the boat docked, I'd phone up Lenny and arrange for a lesson. And so each trip I used to go for lessons. And after I'd been doing this for 2 or 3 months, one day I'd take a lesson and Lenny said, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, "Well, I'm coming to hear your band at Birdland." And he said, "Can you play the first set for me?" And it was like, I never thought of myself in that perspective. So I did this first set at Birdland. And that was when I knew New York was going to be my home. It was just, wow. And I enjoyed it with Lee Konitz and Warren Marsh, Billy Bauer, and a young drummer who I played a lot with afterwards, Jeff Morton. That was really what started that whole New York scene for me. Then I got the visa, went over there, and by the time I went there to live, I knew most of the musicians. We've become friendly with all kinds of musicians, mostly jazz guys. And then I had to wait 6 months because the union rules were you had to reside in wherever you were for 6 months before you were eligible to join the union. But there used to be jam sessions all the time. So, we'd go to the various rehearsal studios and jam, sometimes all night, with all of the famous musicians. Bird used to come down, occasionally Lester Young, Lee Konitz, Stan Getz, people like that. I became part of the scene, and then as soon as I was allowed to work, there were all kinds of calls. What can you do? Whatever it was, Birdland or one of the 52nd Street clubs. And that was my life then. It was like so different from living in London. The difference was mainly in the knowledge and the intensity of the music. If a sax player played, he didn't just piss about, he just went for it, And so I gradually became that kind of level player. I never thought I'd ever go back to the UK. New York was home, that was it. I lived in apartments for a while, and then later on, I rented a loft. I rented out on Long Island for a while because the Manhattan lofts were too expensive. And then I got this loft downtown on 2nd Street. In fact, ironically, it was close to where Nikola Tesla, the great scientist, had lived and had his workshop and all that. So, anyway, that was life. And I thought it was going to go on forever. I started to record with Lenny. He called me up one day and he said, "Are you free on whatever?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Well, do you want to do a little session?" I said, "Yes." So I came down with the bass. The drummer was Roy Haynes. And I'd met Roy anyway, so we recorded. And Lenny did what was then the very first overdub. He played the piano, and then Rudy Van Gelder, who was just beginning to develop his own studio out in New Jersey, he arranged for Lenny to do an overdub. So Lenny played the line on the tracks, there were 2 tracks, called Pastime and Juju. New York became, that was it, that was my life. I took that jazz scene as it was. And at the time, although I realised it was special, I didn't realise how special it was and that it wouldn't last forever. I mean, we all thought, well, the jazz scene will go on forever, you know. But things changed. It went on for at least 10 years. And one of the regular gigs I had was at a club on 52nd Street called the Hickory House. And there was a young lady piano player from East Germany called Jutta Hipp. And Jutta was booked for the gig, and I was booked as part of the rhythm section. And that went on for quite a while. And it was every night in the week except for Sunday. So, you know, it was work. You know. And she was a good piano player. And with one record particular features her, just a trio. So that people used to come and sit in. I remember one night Duke Ellington came in, and the owner of the club said, well, Duke, would you play a tune for us? So Duke sat in, and I accompanied him, again without thinking anything of it, but without realising these were precious moments, you know. When it's like today, we're here, you think it's going to go on forever, but life always changes, circumstances change. But New York, I never stopped to think that one day I would wake up and Duke would not be one of us. He had gone, you see. And the same with so many of them. Buddy Rich, another one, you know. And so it went on, and I was also taking gigs elsewhere. When the Hickory House gig finished, I was then doing freelance work, and I did a lot with Lee Konitz' band. In fact, some of my first recordings were with Lee. And then we toured. And then, prior to the touring, Lenny used to organise sessions. He had a loft down on 32nd Street, 32nd Street, on the east side. And we all used to meet late. We'd go on till way after daylight, just playing. And then when Lee got these gigs out in California, we could no longer participate in that. And this was myself and the wonderful drummer Jeff Morton. So Lenny said, would you record some rhythm tracks for us so that I could have something to practice with whilst you're away? As it turned out, these were the very first rhythm tracks ever made, but we never thought anything about it like that. So I recorded about half a dozen tracks with the drummer Jeff, just bass and drums. Never been done before. And again, we didn't really think about it and did it. And then after a while, this album came out, the one called Tristano, which had 2 of those tracks on it. And, well, you've heard them, they're just incredible tracks. But what Lenny did was he used the tracks and put his own improvisation over them. So although it was only bass and drums, it sounded like a band, you know. It really worked. And it caused a lot of furore, and the critics didn't want to review it, and they were very hesitant about, well, what's going on here, you know? I mean, now we hear it today, it still sounds marvellous, but it doesn't sound like from outer space as it did to our ears in those days. during that time I also recorded some other tracks with Lenny. Then there was the album with U2. And then gradually other musicians said, oh, can you do this session, that? So I became part of the scene. It was during that time that I met Mingus, and we became good friends. And I've mentioned this before, and many people think I'm exaggerating, but we became such good friends. And Mingus used to, in effect, study with me from what I did. And I can always remember him saying, how do you do that, man? So, again, Mingus wasn't such an idol as he became later on. He was just another one of the guys around town. What made it different with Mingus, he realised that bass players and rhythm sections were treated like secondary, you know. I remember there used to be a lot of broadcasts from various 52nd Street clubs. And I remember one band, and the announcer obviously knew nothing about jazz. And can you imagine, he announced the front line, and then instead of saying the rhythm section, he said, assists, and then named them. I mean, it was weird, you know, because there was no, by the establishment, there was no real awareness of what was happening, and it was great music, and it was just, oh, well, yeah, listen to this on a Saturday night without realising here were great things. Anyway, we went on and did all these things, and then one of the gigs was accompanying Billie Holiday. Now, because of her police record, she was not allowed to work in New York. There was a club in Hempstead, Long Island, just outside the city line, and they booked her and myself and a few other musicians. And it was the only time we ever met, and I accompanied her, you know. But it's a memory of, that's what it was like in those days, you know. The gigs with Roy Eldridge then began because Roy was a very famous trumpet player, but he was sort of sidelined by people like Dizzy, who, you know, Dizzy Gillespie was the man, and people didn't stop to realise that a lot of what Dizzy did was borrowed from Roy, you see, you know, but they didn't stop to think about that. But Roy was still very popular, and again, Roy and I became great friends, and we used to travel, we used to drive hundreds of miles. You were driving in those days, no planes, not taking the bus, you just get in your car and off you go. You know? And I remember one time, and there was still a lot of, when you got outside New York, you ran straight into the prejudice, you know, racial prejudice. So on this occasion it was Coleman Hawkins, Roy, and I can't remember who the drummer was, and myself, and a piano player. I was the only white guy in the band. So we're on the road in Pennsylvania. Police cars, squad car pulled us over, pulled me out and said, what are you doing in that car with these black guys? You know? That was the scene, you know. And sometimes on the bandstand, we're all playing, and I'm the only white guy, and Roy would grab the mic and say, give that man some sunshine, he'd say. We sort of got used to it. Whether you're black or white, you sort of, oh, that's the way it is. You know, you never, I mean, today now it's like, it's all up front, everybody talks all the prejudice. But in some ways, the prejudice was less marked then, because it was just part of life, you know. Nothing you could do about it, or so we thought. And sometimes the cops were okay, and sometimes they were real drag. There was one occasion where when I had my studio down on East 2nd Street, and we'd been recording, and then it got to about 10 or 11 o'clock, and we started off for an all-night session again downtown. Got in the car and drove, and my guitarist friend Al Chapman was with me. And then we're down on the Bowery and 2nd Street, and there's a guy, a black guy, laying in the gutter, and the cop's going like this on him, putting his foot on him. So I stopped the car. The cop says, "What do you want?" I said, "Look," and the guy's on the ground. He said, "Don't leave me," he said, "this is a black guy." So I said to the cop, "Look, if you leave him alone, I'll go." But by this time the cop was bored, you know. So he called for assistance, and within a few minutes I'm handcuffed off to the 5th Street police station for the night. My only time in jail, but it was an experience. And so I get in this jail. It's April, it's cold, there's no heating, I had nothing. And you just lay there and wait, you know. And then the next morning, up you get, and they take you all the way up North Manhattan to this court where there's justice and all that. And I'm arraigned under the charge of interfering with the duties of a policeman. And that went on for an age, because then I explained that I was let out on bail, $100, and Al, who had been with me the previous night, he showed up with bail money, so I was free up to a point, you know. And then it took about a couple of months before the actual trial. By that time, a whole bunch of musicians, including Lenny and others I knew, all showed up in court. And I had to just say what happened. I said, "Well, look, mind you, I was just driving down towards the Bowery, and I saw this cop standing on this guy." And the judge said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, he was actually stamping on him. And I'm in the dock, and I'm doing this in the dock, and the whole court went, you know, can imagine." So then they sort of dropped the case, as I thought, but then I was in a position to sue the New York City police, which was perhaps worse than actually being found guilty, you know. Eventually, I remember that was the time I was working with Roy, and Roy phones up soon after this happened. He says, "You want to go to Detroit?" I said, "When?" He told me. I said, "Yeah." So we drove up to Detroit for a gig for a week or so, take the heat off a bit, you know. Anyway, to give you a bit of a flavour of what it was like in those days, it's very different now. America has got very much more polarised. And I hate to think what will happen if Trump gets in, but that's another story. But the music, it was just the music.